This conference will now be recorded.
Well, welcome, folks. This is Steve Rayburn here at US Duck, and we are going to be talking about once we have our 3D model editor open, how do we actually go about building a model? So here is our editor screen, which, as you recall, we got to by clicking the 3D monitor and new model. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to add a shape. And what you can see, we've got several basic shapes here, right? We have a box, and there we go. I'm just going to tilt this down so you can see these a little bit better. We also have a cylinder. Now it doesn't look like anything got added, but remember our box was already sitting there, so we'll slide that out of the way. I'm using my mouse here. However, it would just as easily be done, and sometimes more easily, by coming up to our position. And I wanted to move it along the z-axis. So if I wanted to move this out to, say, the 20 point, we could do that. I'm just going to go ahead and use my cursor. All right. Now we could also add, we've got a box, a cylinder. We also have a cone. And we'll move that one along the x-axis. As you can see, there's a cone. We can add another shape, a sphere. And we'll push that one out along the z-axis again. And we'll zoom in so these look a little better. Right? Another of the basic shapes we have is a plane. Now this one isn't going to be nearly as exciting, but as you can see, there is a plane. Right? It's basically just a wall. Under that, we have a circle. And again, we push this out along this axis. Again, that is the same as a plane, which is rectangular or square, whereas a circle, same kind of a thing, but it's in the shape of a circle. All right. And let's finish these off. Under circle, we've got torus. Now, this one's a little bit of fun. If you take a look at this, essentially what you have here is a donut. And you can see that. Now, I'm going to use the torus to demonstrate how we can move things as well. Now, you saw me move the cylinder, right? And you can see that the position, the X, Y, and Z here, those are all being measured from the center of the object, right? So if I were to move this torus straight up on the Y-axis, if you've been watching right over there, that changes. So I'm going to now push this back down. I want you to watch that Y position coordinate. As we push it down, you can see it is changing because I'm not moving along the X or the Z axis. That's the only one changing. Now, we can also rotate. Now, if I wanted to rotate, say, 90 degrees, I could type in 90 degrees there, and we could flip that torus 90 degrees. Now, here's another fun thing that really has to do with the torus. The arc is currently doing a full 360. In other words, we get the full torus. If I were to change this to, say, half of that, 180, we only get half of the torus. And in fact, what we get is a YouTube. Haha, little joke there. If I now take this to 90 degrees, what we end up with is, in fact, the tubed elbow. Now, let me show you something that gets a little bit strange, okay? We're going to position this so that you can see it really well. Notice that we're still looking at the center of the object because we're centering on where that torus would be if we showed all of it. We're only showing 1/4 of it. We've also got the diameter here that we can play with. So let's double that in size and make it, say, a 6. You can see we got a much wider tube. And here's one that I've always found kind of really fun, right? Is the diameter. Now the diameter is going to be all the way across the torus. So in other words, you can think of this as the radius of that tube elbow. So if instead of 12 inches, we wanted to take that to, say, 24 inches, you get a much longer sweep. And now with the X, the Y, and the Z, we can also scale in any of those directions. So I'm going to scale 2.5 times in the Y, excuse me, the X axis. And watch what we get. See how that kind of looks a little strange if we bring it around? Look at that. We've got this now oblong shape, okay? So you can have a lot of control over these shapes. We can also, by the way, control the opacity. We can make this thing see-through if we choose. All right, we can control its color. I always like those garish colors for things like this. And again, this makes it a little bit easier to see as see-through or the opacity part. All right. So what does this mean? Well, we can use these basic shapes. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that one. We can use these basic shapes to start building things. Well, how do we do that? We can bring them in and use them. We can edit them. For instance, if I wanted to turn that cylinder into not a complete cone like this down to a point, I can go to that cylinder and notice I can control the top or the bottom parameter. If I wanted to make a funnel, I could change that bottom diameter to, say, a 4-inch, and we suddenly get a funnel. And I think you guys begin to see that we could come in and we could make all kinds of things using these basic shapes. All right, so now it comes to, we've got what we're after, let's say. So let's say we're going to use that funnel. I'll just get rid of the rest of these. And we're going to save this. So if I want to save, you'll recall that we talked about how we filter things. Well, if I don't check any of the sharing here, it will be mine and mine alone. Only my login would see this particular item. So we can bring this up so that we can see it a little better. There we go. If I check make it public, that means everyone can see and use this. Okay. If I were to check share with my company, that would mean myself and anyone else who is under my company profile would be able to see and use it, but no one else. And then finally, here in the middle, we have users who can access our product. So for US Duct, that would mean our US tubing product line as well as our US Duct product line. That's our flanged and our rolled lip clamp together products. So that's how we would save it. We would give it a name, something simple as cone, and then we could give it a description, say a 12-inch to 4-inch cone. Okay, and then we could, I'm going to leave these unchecked so it's only mine, click save, right? So now DuctQuote assumes that since I just built this thing, it is already selected here, and it assumes I want to insert this on the layout. So you saw in the previous one, we can go ahead and do that very thing. We can zoom in, you can see there is our cone. We can move Mr. Cone around just like any other object or piece of equipment. Okay. All right. So that's how we will build. And I'd like to kind of back up and show you just a few examples of things that I built as I was practicing to do this video. So here we have a valve. This is a 12 valve with a control wheel that you have here. Here is our shaft that goes in to turn that, and then here's the handle to actually make the turn. We also have way over here, pardon, let me get rid of that box so you guys can see. We've got here what are viewing spools. Get this back where you can see it, and you can see that we have connectors top and bottom, threaded rod to hold those against our glass or plexiglass tube here, which we can see. So it's a viewing spool. And then the other one that I put together up here on this run, and you can see this a little bit better if I turn off a few things. There you go. That is one of our spark traps. All right. So one of the other things that we are adding, and by the time I get to post this video, it will probably already be done, is the ability for you to take a JPEG or a PNG, an image file, and attach it to the side of something so that you could put your logo. We could put the US Duck logo right here on the side of the spark trap. All right, well, guys, hope you enjoy this. Hope you had a lot of fun building these models, and wish you guys happy drawing.